a blow up of a town hall that Congressman Rich McCormick got in Georgia, a kind of rural part of the state. Just listen to this.
Tyranny is rising in the White House, and a man has declared himself our king. So I would like to know, rather, the people would like to know what you, congressmen, and your fellow congressmen are going to do to rein in the megalomaniac in the White House.
When you talk about tyranny, when you talk about presidential power, I remember having the same discussion with Republicans when Biden was elected.
I stand corrected, a more suburban district, yes, but a pretty safe seat for him. And it was like that for the whole town hall. It was not pretty.
I think one thing that gets lost about the federal government is that it is the #1 employer in the United States. And no matter what people think about government employees not working hard enough, you don't have this job security, whatever it is. Once you start having mass layoffs at the #1 employer in America, that is going to not just affect the people you're talking to, the people related to the people that you're talking to, all the way around. That is, I think that seemed like a better play in their minds than it's turning out to be an application, especially since it doesn't appear to make any sense.
Maybe angry constituents, maybe Congress people freaking out, maybe Jesse Waters freaking out. I don't know. Do we have time to play Jesse Waters? Let's play it real quick.
He just found out he's probably going to get laid off. He's going to get doged. This guy's not a DEI consultant. This guy's not a climate consultant. You know, this guy is a veteran. We just need to be a little bit less callous with the way, Harold, we talk about doging people. Thousands of bureaucrats woke up today to a big "you're fired." Doge is dishing out spankings like daddy daycare. Even the holiday weekend couldn't slow Doge down. There was a huge exodus over at the National Archives. Persnickety librarians were getting doged silly. The Dewey Decimal System's next. Doge is a blessing from the heavens above.
Well, somebody woke up and discovered that the federal government employs a lot of veterans.
Well, it seems like that Jesse Waters agrees with me that Republicans should stop demonizing federal workers. Yeah. To his point, I know a guy down in Alabama. First time getting a government job. He had, fresh out of college, had been trying to get a job for a couple of years now. Finally got that government job, I think about 6 months ago. Well, he's laid off now. So his kid, his wife, all of that promise, it's totally gone. And I think your point is right. Once people start seeing, because when we think of federal government, for many anti-government people, they think DMV, meaning D.C., Maryland, and Virginia. They don't see federal government as someone living in a rural area of Mississippi, commuting to a job at the Department of Agriculture. They don't see them as federal workers, which is why it's always easy to just say, shut them down, they'll get paid.
Yeah.
That's not how it works.
And we will find out a lot more stories like that in the coming weeks. Coming up next for us, though, the president continues to attack Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, at the same time, while also taking Harry Enton. So tell us, this polling, I think, bursts a little bit of the bubble from some numbers that we had gotten earlier in the Trump term. And it seems to indicate that, yeah, there are some things Americans like, but a growing list of things that they don't like.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. I mean, look, Trump came in, he had a positive net approval rating. His approval rating was above his disapproval rating, and it made folks like me go, whoa, we never saw that during Trump's first term. And then all of a sudden this week, the numbers started coming in from a month in, and what do we see? We saw Trump underwater in our CNN poll. We saw Trump underwater in the Quinnipiac University poll. We saw Trump underwater in the Washington Post Ipsos poll, and so on, so forth. So he's clearly underwater now. He's in a better position than he was, let's say, for most of his first term. But it's going in the wrong direction, and it's going in the wrong direction at the same time that folks are saying this economy ain't so hot to trot. It's coming at a time in which his economic approval ratings stink. Far worse than during his first term. There are a lot of warning signs for Donald Trump in the numbers that came out.
Yeah, I mean, look, you could argue that everybody's numbers go down, right? Like, no president goes up. They always go down. However, what's striking to me, and the question that keeps turning over in my head is, does the man even care? He's supposedly not running again, although he keeps joking about maybe he will. But do poll numbers even matter if your name is Donald Trump right now?
Yes and no. I think that he picks and chooses what information he chooses to believe. So as long as he can find some poll numbers that have him looking like he's doing really well. But what he does care about is things like the stock market.
Well, my reaction is that the Trump Pentagon does not welcome black people. They're discouraging black people from joining. There's no home for women. We know also the CNO of the Navy, the Chief Naval Operations Officer, who was a woman, was also fired tonight. The commander of the
The Air Force Vice Chief, we actually have the list up there. The Air Force Vice Chief was fired, the Lieutenant General was also fired, and then 3 JAGs were also fired.
Yes,
each
so
of the
there was a
branches.
purge of the lawyers, the senior lawyers, and the message there is that there's no rule of law left. It's a lawless purge. They removed the lawyers, and you have lawyers at every level of command. And it's a terrible message to send out tonight. And also, it's in the military, what we know is that we come from all different walks of life. We're different races. We have different economic backgrounds or different genders, and that there's no place for disrespect or a lack of respect for the dignity of soldiers.
One of the things to remember about C.Q. Brown, he was put in his previous position by Donald Trump, and Trump praised him when he did that. He actually was on duty today, as he always is. He was down at the border with our troops down there when this firing order came down. How can we look at this and not see this as just simply Pete Hegseth has decided that he is a symbol of DEI, and that's why he was fired?
Yes, that, and this is in the Associated Press story, his remarks saying, I don't know if he's qualified, maybe he is, maybe he isn't, because he was black. So it's hard for anyone to read this other than the fact, as you pointed out, that this is a very directed purge that has nothing to do with philosophy, that has everything to do with the faces of the military, which Pete Hegseth has said several times that he doesn't respect women soldiers and he doesn't respect people of color serving in these positions. And so by putting this out there, if you're in the military and you're a person of color, or even if you're just a person of color in this country, how are you supposed to feel seeing this?
Which is going to be an issue. There have only been 2 African Americans who've served as chairman of the Joint Chiefs. C.Q. Brown was the second. Right. Colin Powell was the first. And he's also now no longer the highest ranking black officer in the military.
We've been hearing a lot about military readiness. A lot of these men and women who got their jobs lost today have spent their whole life dedicated to defending the flag and defending this country, no matter the color of their skin, just like you said. And I think that that's what we have to think about, military readiness, because that's what Republicans have been using to justify some of the DE&I stuff that's been going on within the military and all branches of the government now that Trump's in office. But these are real folks with real experience. You know, I've worked with groups like Vote Vets around the country and worked with folks who I admire every day because of the sacrifices they make for our country. And thinking about these folks that's done this under this auspice and the voter out there and in the focus groups the last election we were in, this is not. Sure, everybody voted for change in some form or fashion, but I don't think this is the change they voted for. And I think there's going to be repercussions for this kind of anxiety now that we're going to have in a tenuous world.
Before you jump in, I want to ask you about something you raised too, the JAG situation.
Yes.
These are the military lawyers.
That's right.
3 of the highest-ranking military lawyers were. They're saying they're accepting nominations. Presumptively, they're being fired. This is also a Defense Secretary, Pete Hegseth, who in his confirmation hearing, he was questioned about his use of the term jag-off, and he suggested that JAGs, rather than enforcing the law, they are trying to get promotions and that they don't have the best interests of rank-and-file soldiers.
Well, I deeply disagree with that conclusion.
And we can't forget also Pete Hegseth advocated to Trump for pardoning people who were accused of war crimes.
Yes,
so
he
put
did.
that all together.
Yes, I mean, the fact is he convinced Trump to issue pardons to 3 officers who were engaged in war crimes. And people witnessed that. And when you don't take accountability, that actually diminishes unit cohesion. Because when people are treated differently and it looks unfair, then that is a real demoralizing occurrence. And I would add that when you take out the top legal officers, you're talking about the White House sees itself as the law and order over the armed forces, but actually you need lawyers at every level of command. And I would add that this is a readiness issue, because what's happening now is that the Trump White House is playing a subtraction game. And the military has not been able to achieve its recruiting goals, and they certainly aren't going to be able to do that with white men only. This is a very diverse union. It's a unit, and it's probably the best example of America at its best. It's really a travesty.
So, folks, you're seeing Donald Trump's whole team quit on him. GOP strategists, surrogates, whatever, quitting on him, leaving, running for the exits, because they know it's about to get so messy. He's firing people without any theory behind it, just getting rid of people haphazardly, having to rehire them. And yet, in the cases where he is firing people on purpose, like where there does seem to be a deliberate move, he's firing people not because they're unqualified or their jobs are redundant or what have you, but because in some cases they are too qualified, meaning that they have enough professional integrity and skill to stand up to Trump and his agenda. And in some cases, he's firing them just for the idea that they are quote unquote woke or quote unquote, secret Democrats. And often that's being used to target particular groups. High-ranking black officials are automatically assumed to be woke and therefore fireable, regardless of how qualified they are, and regardless of what their political views actually are. A lot of them are career public servants that have made it clear that they don't take public political stands and are being fired anyway because Trump looks and says, oh, it's a black man or a black woman. They must automatically be a secret Democrat. I'm going to fire their asses or something like that. This is showcasing that no one likes this. No one likes what's going on. And we need to see the protests continue, because if without the images of thousands of people tearing into Trump and the people walking out on him, Americans won't understand how bad this really is.